Welcome to the Elemental Entrepreneurship Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah. You may notice the intro is different again. The intro is different again because I keep telling y'all this podcast is being rebranded. It's changing. And it's part of why I haven't made as many episodes, because I'm really just sitting with knowing that I want things to change, but not being 100% sure what things are changing into. And I've just been letting myself be in that liminal space of not knowing, but I feel closer to knowing. I feel like we're closer. I feel like the rebrand is nigh. And so I'm slowly I'm taking off the intro. As soon as I know the new name, you'll find this under a new name and there will be a new graphic. But for right now, welcome to the Elemental Entrepreneurship Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah. And our episode today is entitled, Give Yourself the Oscar. The Academy Award goes to you, my good bitch, per the Academy. And you are also the Academy. You're also the statue, and you're also the speech. You're also the red carpet, and you are also the music that plays to get yourself off stage. This metaphor is running amok. Okay. Yesterday was the Academy Awards, and I don't watch it. I don't know if you do. I don't really watch award shows because I don't care. But I do look at the results afterwards. Don't agree with all of the decisions that were made, but, that's what I get for not being there and making my voice known. I'm just kidding. No one asked me. But yesterday, I also made a post. That's not that surprising. I post pretty much every day. But yesterday, I made a post that was based on a true story, based on a real conversation had in real time. And the post says, I don't know who needs to hear this, but downplaying your accomplishments and expertise isn't being humble. It is not conceited or egotistical to own how dope you are. And this conversation came about because I was sitting with my best friend. We were having a little work date at our favorite cafe, and she was creating a little intro for herself, for this new organization that she's a part of, and everyone has to list their professional titles. And she said, well, what should I list? What professional title should I list? Because like many of the people around here, yourself probably included, she is a multi-hyphenate, talented individual. She has many, many, many titles that she could put down, but we're just trying to pick the ones that are most relevant to this project that she's working on. And I suggested that she put writer, director, choreographer, performer. She's many more things than that, but those were just the ones off the top of my head that I knew she could put down that were relevant to this project that she's working on. And she immediately said, I don't know if I can list director because I don't know if I really have studied that skill set enough. Now, my friend is a choreographer, and my choreographers know choreography is also directing. You are directing a cast of dancers. You are working with people. You're working in theaters. You're working with tech people. You're working with sound people. You're coordinating the movement. You're running rehearsals. You're a director. If you're choreographing a company, you are directing. And not only has she choreographed many large pieces with adults, she choreographs teenagers. So if you can direct a bunch of teenagers, then you could direct, a short for YouTube. You've been on set for tons of things as an actor and a dancer, but you've also choreographed all these projects, and like you directed this and you directed that and you directed this thing and you direct these kids. And she was like, oh yeah, I guess I know how to direct. And it wasn't even like she was trying to be humble about it. It wasn't even like she was trying to downplay in that way that people do, where we're trying to, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't want to draw attention to how talented. It's not the fake humble. In her mind, she had completely discounted all of this experience that she has because she doesn't have it in this other area. And I just sat there thinking about it for a while. And then I said, is it okay with you if I make a post about this? And she said, of course. Because it got me thinking about how often we are discounting ourselves, our accomplishments, the things that we've learned, the things that we've done in our own mind, because we have some, I don't want to call it arbitrary. It's probably arbitrary, right? Like the arbitrary idea that because you haven't directed a bunch of, shorts or commercials, that's kind of what this was for, things specifically for marketing, for social media, for YouTube, because you haven't directed those types of film projects, then you can't list that you have directing experience because you haven't done that. Like suddenly all the directing you've done just doesn't count. Or thinking, I want to make an online course, but I can't do that because I'm not a teacher. But you're discounting the fact that you've done live classroom teaching a whole bunch. You just haven't done online teaching. Or you have years of experience working on teams, and you know what makes somebody a good project leader or a good manager, but when the project leader or project manager position comes up at your job, you don't apply for it because you tell yourself you have no project management experience. But you've been doing the work for so long, and you've worked with so many project managers, you know exactly what's good and what's not, you know exactly what works, you have a lot of ideas about how you would do it if you had the job, but you tell yourself, I'm not allowed to apply because I don't have this experience. We've created, a lot of the time, some arbitrary line in our head that says, once I've accomplished XYZ, then I'll be allowed to say I've done this thing. Then I'll be allowed to say I have this skill. Then I'll be allowed to tell people I have this experience. But I haven't done that yet. Therefore, I have nothing. Therefore, nothing I've done counts. I think that we are doing this to ourselves way more often than we might even be aware of. And I think it is especially true for certain types of people. I think it is especially true for, first of all, women and femmes and people of color. I think it is especially true for type A high achievers and former gifted kids. I think it is especially true for highly sensitive people. I think it is especially true for really driven, ambitious people. So basically everyone who's possibly listening to this, all of us, it's true for us. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it, and many of them are societal and systemic. And I think that one of those reasons, I'm going to break this into two categories. One is the training to be humble and the misinterpretation of what humble really means. And then the other is being so focused on all that you've yet to accomplish that you literally just don't even notice the things that you've done, because all you see, all you're focused on, all you're fixated on is the things you still want to achieve. So I'm going to start with the second one. I'm going to go second one first. Many of us are very driven, and that's a beautiful thing. And many of us are very ambitious, and that's a beautiful thing. And many of us just simply love our fields of special interest and study so much. We obsess over them. We look at and watch and pay attention to the people we admire in the field and our teachers and our mentors. That loud noise was a cat acting up. And we are so fixated and focused on what's next, what's next, what's next. What am I going to learn next? What training am I going to do next? What certification am I going to get next? What is the next area of expertise for me? And we are so focused on the future and all of the things that we want to learn. And we're also so focused on our teachers and the people who inspire us, that we're really comparing ourselves to them. And we're going, well, compared to that person, I'm a complete noob and I know nothing. Compared to that person, I'm a complete beginner. Compared to people who've been doing this for years, I'm a rank newbie. And that might be true. But why would you only ever be compared to those people? Why would you never be compared to your peers, the people you're lateral with, the people you started at the same time as, the people who have learned as much as you have? Why would you never be compared to those people? And why would you never be compared to the people who have never encountered this topic at all? The people who are day one on their journey? Why would you never compare yourself to those people? Why are we only comparing to the people who are so much farther along than we are? And when we don't take a moment to, for one thing, give ourselves perspective, for one, like to look at people who are just starting and how far we are along on our path compared to absolute beginners, and to people who are elbow to elbow with us, who are somewhat, it's early in the day as I'm recording this, the people who are our peers in this process. That's not the word I want, but I can't think of the word I want, and I don't want to wait for 5 minutes for my brain to cough up the word. Then we have a skewed perspective of ourselves. We think we have a really realistic and accurate portrait of where we're at, but we don't if we only ever compare ourselves to the people we are inspired by or learning from. So expanding perspective, right? Step one, if you're already thinking about a thing that you do, a thing that you study, a thing that you love, as I'm talking about this, I want you to just take a moment right now and think about how long you've been learning about this thing. How many hours have you put in? How much time have you spent? How many books have you read? How many videos have you watched? How many courses have you taken? How many certifications have you already gotten? How many years of study or months of study? How much have you put in? And then thinking about the person who is day one learning about this, and think about yourself for a moment in terms of your talent, your skill, your ability level in this thing compared to this person who's just starting out. It's a little bit different, right? Do you suddenly see yourself in a new light? Do you suddenly see the level of credential you really have? Do you suddenly see how much you could potentially teach or share or mentor someone who is day one starting out? It's different when you remember that the people farther along the path than you are not the only people to look at, to compare yourself to. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is this idea of being humble. Being humble and never allowing yourself to appreciate or acknowledge anything you've ever done, not the same. They're not the same. Constantly telling yourself you don't measure up, that there's so much farther you have to go, that you don't really have a lot of skills, that you're always a beginner, that you will never measure up, right? And you don't maybe tell yourself those words exactly, but that's the sentiment, that's the feeling that you're left with when you think, well, I can't write that down. I can't say I have that expertise. I can't say I do that. I can't apply for that job. I can't apply for that residency. I can't ask for that sale. I can't put myself out there like that because I'm not good enough yet. That's not being humble, right? Those two things are not the same. The mechanism in your head that tells you, don't get too big for your britches. Hold on there, Missy. You don't really know anything yet. That's not humility. That's not what that is. There's a difference between being humble and having internalized messages that say that if you even just list the facts of your accomplishments, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've worked at this place, I've helped these people, I've built these organizations, here's all the things I've done, that is bragging, that is like exalting yourself or overly hyping yourself or tooting your own horn or whatever, something distasteful, which we'll get to that in a second. I don't think that's distasteful. That it makes other people uncomfortable, that it's designed to make people feel bad. Right? Like, oh, I don't want to make anyone feel bad. I don't want it to seem like I'm bragging. We've been trained to be agreeable. We've been trained to be docile. We've been trained to say, I'm not an expert. I couldn't possibly be an expert. Experts are other people, right? Experts don't look like me. Experts are men. Start there. Experts are white men. Experts are doctors. Experts have letters after their name, right? And I don't have those things. So I couldn't possibly be an expert. I couldn't possibly be that great at this. That who do I think I am idea is not what humble means. But because we've also accepted that it is a good thing to be a humble person, it can get weaponized and used against us so that anytime we act proud of ourselves, especially in childhood, or share things that we've done or accolades that we've gotten, we can be easily cut down to size with, oh no, don't say that, don't share that, be humble about it, don't brag about it, don't make people uncomfortable, don't rub it in people's faces. How is someone just saying simply, here's what I've done and here's all of the ways that I've accomplished XYZ? How is that rubbing it in someone's face? It's just a fact. I did do that. You did do that. Those are your accomplishments. If you being willing, able to list, here are my accreditations, here are the things that I've done, makes someone uncomfortable around you, that person is insecure and jealous. You have not done anything wrong by simply owning what you've actually done. I mean, we don't actually make anyone feel anything. That's kind of a whole different podcast episode. But if someone chooses to respond to your resume with insecurity or disdain, with deciding that you're an asshole, with deciding that you think you're better than everybody, does that really have anything to do with you? Do you actually feel that way? Or is that really about that person and how they are feeling about themselves in that moment? It's the latter. Being humble means, to me, tell me if you think I'm wrong, that no matter how much I've accomplished, no matter how much money I make, no matter how successful I am, I never believe I'm more worthy than anyone else or that I'm a better human being. I might be better at a skill, but I don't think I'm a better person than someone who doesn't have that skill. And I don't treat people like I think I'm better than them or more worthy or more valuable than them because of any of my skills or accomplishments. That's what it means to be humble. It doesn't mean I've never accomplished anything or that I'm never allowed to own that I'm a really fucking impressive person. And if you're listening to this, I want you to take a moment right now to just tell yourself, I'm a really fucking impressive person. You've done a lot of things. You've accomplished a lot of things. You've studied a lot of things. You know a lot of things. You're good at a lot of things, probably way, way more than you let yourself acknowledge or give yourself credit for or even really pursue. You're a really fucking impressive person. That doesn't make you a bad person. Now, if you walked around being a dick to people and being like, well, I'm really impressive, that would not be a humble person. That wouldn't be great. We wouldn't love that, right? We probably know some people like that. We can probably think of them. Dunning-Kruger would suggest they're probably less qualified than you. But you're not that person. And owning your expertise, your experience, your acumen does not make you that person. So I want to check in. Do we feel the difference between no matter how accomplished or successful I become, I never take that to mean I am a better person than anyone else, and I don't treat other people like I think I'm better than them, versus I make sure to never allow myself to feel how accomplished I am or how good I am at things for fear that if I do, it will make me a bad person. And so I have to cut myself down to size. I have to keep myself in check. I have to constantly tear myself down just a little to make sure I don't get too big for my britches, to make sure I don't think too highly of myself, because if I do, I don't know, something bad's going to happen and people aren't going to like me. Really, that's what it is. People aren't going to like me. Anyone who doesn't like you because you own that you're an impressive person is probably not on your level and is probably not your peer. And again, not saying they're a bad person, right? When I say not on your level, I mean people who are actually elbow to elbow with you on the path, who are also elbow to elbow with you in terms of their own personal development work, their own emotional regulation and responsibility and intelligence work, are not going to try to cut you down or dismiss you or make you feel bad for owning your accomplishments. My friends, my peers and my friends are my biggest hype people. They do exactly for me what I did to my friend in this conversation. They say, well, wait, but you're really fucking great at that. You're really dope at this thing. I don't think you give yourself enough credit for how much you know about XYZ or how great you are at ABC. That's what people who are on your same level want to do for you, and you do it for them. They're not intimidated by you. They actually want you to claim it even more. So I posted this post with a caption about these ideas, and I already knew that I was going to make a podcast episode about this. I already felt like it was really important. And my dad commented on the post on Facebook, and he said, "Give yourself the Oscar." And I was like, yes, yes, yes. Stop waiting for someone else outside you to say you're allowed to be proud of yourself, to say you're allowed to claim a title, to say that you're allowed to own your expertise. Because a lot of times that is what we're waiting for. Even if we don't know it, we're waiting for some external validation, right? A diploma is external validation. A degree, a certification is external validation. Having someone hand you a title is external validation. Having someone come along and say, okay, now you've done enough. Now you've done enough, and now you're allowed to be proud of yourself. Now you're allowed to tell people. Now you're allowed to own this thing about yourself. Somehow deep down, we're waiting for some external benchmark, some external validation, some societal cosign that says, okay, now have I done enough to be proud of myself? Now have I done enough to list this thing on my resume? At what point do I get to be proud of myself? We're waiting for someone to give us the Oscar. We're waiting for someone to say, and the Oscar goes to you, the person who has worked really, really hard and been really, really quiet about it and hasn't rocked the boat and has never bragged about your accomplishments. And in fact, you don't even think you're good. It's you. It was you all along. Stand up, take a bow. We're waiting for this idea that, like, if we're quiet enough and just work hard enough, and if we're self-sacrificing enough, that someone is going to notice it and they'll come along and do the bragging for us. They'll come along and give us the raise, the opportunity, the sale, the job, the residency, the position, the grant. It's not true. It's not like that. Right? The idea that if you just work hard and keep your head down, someone's going to notice it for you and they're going to give you the opportunities you've been working for. It's not going to happen. There are people out there who are completely comfortable and confident listing things on a resume, applying for a position that they are underqualified for, shooting their shot, generally just shooting their shot. And a lot of them get really far in life. And we can sit on the sidelines and say that's unfair and they don't deserve it. But did you put your name in the pot? Did you walk into that meeting or that interview or that application call with the confidence that you belonged there and the radical self-belief in your ability to figure it out once you got your foot in the door. Because if you didn't, then you're, armchair quarterbacking. And you're welcome to do that, but it's not getting you any closer to what you want. I say this from personal experience. I definitely sit back and think about, in belly dance, we used to call them one-class wonders. People who would take one belly dance class and the next week they would have a website out in costumes and they'd be marketing themselves as a professional belly dancer and getting gigs that paid hundreds of dollars. And I would be so mad when I would see that happen. I'd be like, how dare that person? I have all these years of study and training and I'm not doing that and I'm not charging that much. But what I was really mad about was that I didn't think I deserved it yet. I was like, well, I've been training for 10 years and I still don't think I'm ready. So therefore, I don't think you're ready. So how dare you put yourself out there and charge this much money and be willing to take yourself so seriously? Now, I will say there's some problems with doing that. I don't recommend anyone do that. But the problem was that I was jealous. I was jealous that they had that much gumption. I was jealous that they backed themselves that much. I had shadow around seeing someone be like, I can do this and I can charge money for it. And I have no qualms about that. I deserve that, because I didn't feel that way about myself, no matter how much work I had done. The problem was I kept trying to convince myself that if I just did more work, eventually I'd feel that way. And so I did more work and I did more work and I did more work and I did more work. And no matter how much work I did or how long I was in that industry or how many, workshops I taught or how many gigs I had done, I never caught up with feeling that way, with feeling like I could just confidently self-promote. There would always be some little part of my brain that was like, well, I'm not that skilled yet. I don't have that many talents yet. That's not being humble. For one thing, it's not the same thing. And it wasn't helping me get closer to my goals. So I want you to consider where there are areas that there's something you want. There's something you want to do. There's something you want to go for. And the only reason you're not is because you're telling yourself you haven't done enough yet. You're not qualified enough yet. And I want you to ask yourself, first of all, is that really true? Or are there people out there with less qualifications than you going for it? And then I want you to feel into, what would it be like? What would happen if you went for it too? If you took the big swing, if you said, you know what, I know I'm underqualified for this position, but I'm applying for it anyway. And if and when I get the interview, I'm going to talk a great case for why the experience I have over here makes me a fantastic candidate to do this thing over here. The worst thing that can happen is you gain experience in putting yourself out there. And that's a really good thing. What happens when you give yourself the Oscar and you stop waiting for someone else to give it to you? What changes when you go, okay, I've got it. I won. I accomplished it. I did it. The best actor is me. Best director, me. Best costumes, me. To me, from me. I'm the best. There you go. Stamped. Approved of. All carte blanche approval. Can never be taken from me. The Oscar winner is me. What changes? What do you have permission to do now that you're no longer waiting for the stamp of approval that says you're finally good enough to go out there and just say you're good? That's my thought for today. Hope this was valuable for you. I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Shoot me a DM on Instagram at Intuitive Edge Coaching, or shoot me an email, intuitiveedgecoaching@gmail.com. All right, that's all I've got for you today. Okay, love you, bye.
That's our episode for today. Thank you, as always, for being here and for listening to the podcast. I know there are so many things that you could be doing with your time, so many things you could be listening to. It is an honor that you choose to be here. Connect with me on Instagram at Intuitive Edge Coaching. Have a great day.